Welcome to Puppet Vikings! Today we are looking at ladies' caps. These are another type of soft head covering. I hope you enjoy watching. So we're going to start off by making a hood like the one found in Jorvik, now on display in the Jorvik Museum. This and the Dublin hood are very much the same, except that the York hood is a bit longer and the ties attach in a different place. To make either of them, you start off by cutting a rectangle of fabric. It needs to be twice as long as you want it to come down to the sides of your head, and as wide as the back of your head to where you want it to stop on the front. We're using the measurements from the original York hat. Now we have the rectangle, it's folded in half, and for the York hat we add a curve on the corner so that it will be shaped to fit around the back of the head. This seam is then sewn together and the odd material behind the curve can then be trimmed away. This will leave you with your hood or cap. Really is that simple. As you can see, we're sewing this using a back stitch. Back stitch gives you a really nice sturdy seam that will last really well. The picture you saw up in the corner is the actual hood that we saw in the Jorvik Museum when we visited there back in September. This is just using a piece of scrap fabric to try out the hood design. We're sewing along this edge using a simple whip stitch just to hold the edges together. If you're making it with a fabric that frays easily, this is a good technique as it will keep everything closed in and stop it from coming to pieces. The diagram here shows you the dimensions for the Jorvik. So the actual end hat is 8 inches by 12 inches, and as you can see, the ties fit just under the ear. Now that the hood is made, we need to do some hemming to keep it nice and tidy. The original hood was made with the selvage edge of the fabric along the edge that goes around the face. This meant that no hem was needed. The bottom edge, however, does need to be hemmed, and we're using a rolled hem here to make it nice and neat. The Dublin cap is made in exactly the same way, except you don't round off the point, it stays nice and square. Everything else is the same construction wise, but it's a bit shorter, it only comes down to the chin, and it's a bit narrower, it doesn't come as close to the face. People have suggested this may be because the hood was worn underneath another head covering, like a scarf or a veil, and the cap would then be used to pin that to it. Unfortunately, we can't be sure whether that is correct. The picture you can see here shows a version of the Jorvik cap made in linen, and this is edged with some lucite braid, which is also used to attach it under the chin. As you can see, it sits quite loosely over the back of the head, but keeps the hair covered and stops it from falling forward, which is really useful when you're doing things like cooking over an open fire. If you don't let your hair pull forwards into the flames, you've got much less chance of burning all the hair off your head, which would be a real shame. These hoods could also be made in linen, so you had a variety of different styles and designs depending on how hot or cold it was and how much money you had to spend on your fabric. Obviously, silk, being imported, would have been very expensive. Wool was also expensive because it took a lot of time to spin and then to weave. And linen also was quite expensive because, again, it took a lot of time to make. Not like the fabrics you can just nip to the shop and buy these days. Now that all the hemming is done, all we need to do is attach some ties. Ties could be made out of all sorts of different techniques. These ones here are made using finger looping, which is a fancy way of plaiting that was great for making cord. You can also use a lucet, or you could weave a narrow braid using a backstrap loom, or even tablet weaving to make something very fancy. The ties can either be attached under the chin or round behind the back of the head. So that's the lady's cap. I think mine looks really pretty. It's a nice colour. I hope you enjoyed watching, and we'll see you next time for Puppet Vikings!